Chapter 39. Just Cars. The car manufacturers have well-paid psychologists on retainer, keeping them informed about their customers' identification with their wheels as, among other things, extensions of their personalities, especially the pricey SUVs. Uncle Mickey would have laughed out loud at that. He owned a basic maroon DeSoto, and my dad had a 39 Buick, 4-screen with maroon trim inside. I remember how we'd caravan to the beaches outside of Boston in the summers, to Nantucket and Revere, and I think my dad's brother, Uncle Abe, was in the procession with his wife Teresa and their kids, in a modest black sedan. Apart from my Aunt Seal's blue coupe with the running board and rumble seat, those are the first cars I remember. Sometimes we took a streetcar to the beaches. I guess when there was no one to drive and the conductor could operate it from either end. He'd simply turn the seatbacks over at the final destination, facing in the opposite direction. As he walked down the aisle to the other controls, years later, we supported a small, innovative theater company in Hollywood, the Turnabout, which used the same kind of seats, salvaged from LA's sadly defunct red cars, perhaps. Each presentation featured a live original review in one direction. Delightful Elsa Lancaster. Charles Lawton's wife was one of the performers and sang a clever double entendre number. I'm glad to see you're back, Helen. And after the intermission, the seatbacks were turned over. A puppet show in the other direction. The artistic directors were a brave, creative couple who I think must have been gay before it became fashionable. There was another memorable routine, with two performers seated back-to-back, supporting a gigantic book between them. We were a pair of bookends for holding up the book. We cannot tell the title because we never look. When I was little, my mother and I would wait at the window at night, counting the cars until we saw my father's turning the corner up the street. As a senior in high school, when my dad was in San Francisco, I drove his light green 49 Chevrolet, which was the car we had when we drove across country from Virginia to California in 1951. It was the car I was driving when I met Deborah, and before I bought my first car from Bill Allen's used cars in Palo Alto. That was a 42 Chevy Coupe, with a vacuum short shift on the wheel and a meager ledge where a back seat should have been. It cost $300, and Mr. Allen let me pay for it in installments. Before we got married in 1954, I traded it in to Mr. Allen for a 49 Ford convertible. The car we drove to our honeymoon in one-room motel-like apartment in East Palo Alto. I remember paying $500 for the Ford, and I must have thrown in the Chevy. When I graduated from Stanford, we moved to San Francisco, and I sold the car to my brother-in-law, Ernie, who was in the Navy, and two of his buddies. They wrecked it one weekend while they were on leave, and I think they still owe me. Afterwards, we owned a 2-door gray Chevy sedan. This Chevy had a back seat, and a 61 Comet I bought when Susan was born, which was blue when we bought it. Sometime later, we painted it yellow and gave to Rosita Val, a housekeeper who lived with us for several months, along with her husband Francisco and their baby. Somewhere along the way, we had a Studebaker with a wraparound rear window and a bullet nose. A Starlight, I think it was called. I thought it looked cool before cool was in, but it was never cheap to keep. For a while, we owned a 67 Volvo, white with red interior. I loved that car, and I wish we still had it. We had two more Volvos after that, a green 72 wagon with a rear-facing third seat. The kids called it the throw-up seat, and a 74 sedan, which was the top of the line. In due course, Robin got the wagon and Melissa the sedan. Neither one fully explained what eventually happened to them, and I was afraid to ask. One year, I cabled Volvo in Sweden before I made a purchase to make sure there wouldn't be a new model in the near future. I got a polite reply, signed with a Swedish name and the word Volvo. I thought at first it was the company's namesake responding in person. When she was old enough, we bought Susie a third or fourth hand Beetle, which someone had painted orange, and she called it the Mango. Dad sold us his pearl gray Mercedes when he tired of it, and once I came home with a red Ford Mustang, which was a big mistake because Deborah hated it, and I was supposed to be out buying another Volvo. I met with a similar response when valor became the better part of discretion, and I parked a Jeep Eagle in the driveway. In 30 years, we've had 3 Toyotas, an 82 Cressida I should have kept, yes, along with the 67 Volvo, a Toyota Camry, and now a 4Runner, which, all things considered, may be our last car. In the final analysis, it's really much more than just cars. Uncle Mickey would understand that with the memory of each one comes not a mere reflection of one's personality, but a part of our history, where we lived, where I worked, which children had been born, how my parents and my brother were doing, what was happening in the world, which relatives had been married or moved away or died. I can still smell the fresh interiors of the new cars we bought, and feel the upholstery and the firm contour of the steering wheels. Yes, and the pride of ownership. But I'm not a particular fan of cars, except as a necessity. I hate what happened in LA years ago when the oil, tire, and automobile manufacturers got together and lobbied a perfectly good rapid transit system, those red cars, out of existence, resulting in the present state of pollution and congestion. Thanks to them, cars have become a virtual necessity in this urban sprawl, and I guess, regrettably, we've owned our share. While I was recovering from my eye injury, I occasionally used public transportation. It's not very convenient where we live. It takes much longer, and you have to have the correct change. But it's human, and there's something warm and friendly when the bus driver greets a regular passenger by name, or 2 elderly women shoppers chat with each other about their children and grandchildren. Also, if you keep an eye out, there's lots to see. Sometimes, Deborah and I ride the local Scat Access van, which takes her door to door. I'm along with her, and Gina as her human companion. And sometimes, when we go out, they take the van, and I meet them at our destination with my car. I guess it's an extension of my personality after all.